Welcome. First of all, let me tell the story of my friend. I have a deep understanding of both characters in this story, as our families were close friends. Let me skip the introductory part of how they met and go straight to the events. To complete the picture, it should be noted that she is a year older than my friend, and at that time, he was 24 years old. It all started when my friend began to suspect his girlfriend of infidelity. Wherever they went, she never parted with her mobile phone, even carrying it with her to the toilet and to the bathroom. She was talking on the phone, leaving the room to be unavailable to her lover. Moreover, her answers in conversation became more and more short and monosyllabic, just yes and no. There were other factors that raised suspicions, but they are not of great importance. My friend claimed that his intuition was not mistaken, and she was burned by a simple SMS that she received from her friend. The content of the message was clear and direct. It was a direct confession of the lover's feelings. I remember the events that took place after Sophie's confession. I remember that she was always confident in her innocence and negative emotions. However, my friend, who had a special gift of persuasion, was able to reveal all the evidence to her and make her accept it. There were a lot of tears and emotional disagreements, but in the end, they decided to forgive and continue living together. Although forgiveness is one thing and forgetting is another. In general, along the way, they continued to live together for another year and a half. In the meantime, my friend went on a business trip for 2 weeks, but his plans changed and he stayed for 3 weeks. It was at this time, when my friend was on a business trip, that interesting events took place, which I want to tell you about. Go on, and I'm listening to your story carefully. Arriving home, the friend discovers that his girlfriend is behaving excessively affectionately and gently. However, 2 hours later, she deliberately provokes a quarrel and gets what she wants. Packing her things, she goes home without giving any explanation. Feeling guilty, the friend buys a huge bouquet of flowers and drives to her house to ask for forgiveness. She, frankly, admits that she loves someone else. Now, about us. We started dating in 2000, and 2 years later, we had a daughter. Our life has become the normal routine of family life. As I have already mentioned, doubts began to visit me much earlier than my friend returned from a business trip. The wife began to show unusual behavior. She took care of her appearance, bought new things every day, cooked for a few days in advance, and the like. I began to panic and look for signs of infidelity on the internet. Having already a 100% match between my fears and reality, I still couldn't calm down. There was no person caught in the act, no trust in the betrayal. My lover went on vacation with the boy and my friend's friend, whom I have already mentioned. I took them to the airport and asked them to text as soon as they got on the plane, arrived, and checked into the hotel. We used to write to each other several times a day when we were apart, but this time it was silent. The next day I called myself. Mine asked me to put money on her phone, even though she had already put $50 in yesterday, and they couldn't run out. I put in another $50. There was silence in response. I forgot to say, "Your SIM card is registered in my name." And so, my doubts do not leave me. What to do? Since the SIM card belongs to me, this means that I can sort information about phone conversations, when and to which number the calls were made. And that's exactly what I did. I asked for and received information. I began to analyze. Damn, it turns out that I suspected my beloved for no reason. But wait, what kind of talk is this from Egypt? Not with me. Here it is, the first evidence. But what kind of number? It's been 2 weeks. Immediately after their return, I decided to act. I secretly entered the same number into my wife's phone and saw that it referred to her friend. The next day, we got together very family-like somewhere. Everyone had already gone out into the yard, but I decided to go back to the bathroom. I saw that my wife's phone was left there. I took it to return it, but instinctively decided to check what time it was. There was one unread SMS. At first, I didn't even think about reading it, since it was from a friend, but I read it anyway. "My love, I love you and miss you very much." What a strange text message from a friend, isn't it? I asked my friend to call this number to see who would answer, a man or a woman, and it turned out that it was a man. Basically, it gave me insight, but I still decided to find out who he was. However, my search didn't stop there. I began to study previous impressions of telephone conversations in more detail and noticed that one number passed smoothly into another. I wrote it down and wrote it on my spouse's phone, again in secret. In this way, I discovered who he was. It turned out that he was a married man who worked with my spouse. He also had a daughter. But love at work is impossible, even if I'm wrong. At the time, my spouse worked in the gaming industry every other day. And then I remembered that for a month and a half, he was happy to go to work extra shifts. Again, if you don't get caught, you're not a thief. At that time, I came across a listening device on the internet, almost purchased it, but everything happened much earlier. I have a friend, Natasha, and really she is just a friend, nothing more. My wife knew about her and treated her with obvious jealousy. It was a day off late in the evening, and word for word, my wife began to show jealousy towards my friend. My nerves were tense to the limit, like strings, and this is to put it mildly. I could not restrain myself and replied rudely, "Yes, I sleep with her." My wife's reaction was amazing. You had to see it. Her eyes widened, her face turned red, and she said, "It's not what you think. We just communicate." I could barely restrain myself and restrained myself so as not to hurt her. In principle, I never hit women. I was shocked. My wife quickly packed her things and went to her mother. After my wife left, I was left alone with my thoughts and emotions. My thoughts were scattered and contradictory. On the one hand, I wanted to believe that all this was a misunderstanding, that my spouse was really only communicating with Oliver. On the other hand, reason told me that the situation was not so simple. The next day, I began to analyze the telephone conversations again. No new evidence came to light, but I continued to feel cheated. At the time, our son was with my mother. As he said goodbye, he said, "I'm leaving so you can be alone and think. We just communicated." Anger quickly gave way to a sense of betrayal. A few days later, we met again to talk about what was happening. However, my spouse never confessed, although, having believed everything that was written on the internet about the signs of lying, her lies manifested through all her emotions. Conversations with his spouse became cold and tense. We talked only about domestic matters and matters concerning our daughter. They both understood that something was breaking in our relationship, but neither she nor I dared to take the first step towards reconciliation or a definitive breakup. A few weeks passed, and I noticed that my spouse started avoiding me. He returned home late, spent more time with his parents or friends. In the meantime, I tried to distract myself from my thoughts with work and hobbies, but nothing helped. One night, when I was about to have a nervous breakdown, my spouse came home and told me that we needed to have a serious conversation. We sat at the kitchen table, and she started counting. It turned out that her association with Oliver hadn't been as innocent as she'd tried to convince me and herself. She admitted that they had a short-term romance, which began at the same time she began taking extra shifts at work. I listened to her and felt something inside me finally crumble. She talked about her guilt, how hard it was for her, and how she wanted to fix everything. But these words could no longer change my attitude. I realized that trust had been completely lost. All that remains is the emptiness and bitterness of disappointment. We decided to part ways. Divorce was a difficult and painful process, but in the end, it was inevitable. We agreed on joint custody of our daughter and tried to do everything to change her life as little as possible. I didn't want her to suffer because of our mistakes. Several years passed. Life slowly got better. I met a new woman with whom I developed a warm and trusting relationship. We took our time to take serious steps, giving each other time and space to become aware of our feelings. My ex-wife has also arranged her life, and we maintain a neutral, friendly relationship for the sake of our daughter. Now, looking back, I realize that this difficult period taught me a lot. It made me rethink my values and relationships with loved ones. Perhaps this story will help some of you avoid my mistakes or find the strength to survive such difficulties. Dear friends, if you liked this story or found something useful in it, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and like it. Your comments and support are very important to us. Share your stories and thoughts in the comments to help other viewers. Thank you for being with us, and see you next time on our channel.